Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel and to this series on boundaries that I've put together for you all. Today we're talking all about what to do when people react to your boundaries, which I know is a very common experience because you've all been asking me this question over and over. What do you do when people react to your boundaries? So let's get started. So to start, I want to just acknowledge it's never easy. It's never easy when people react to our boundaries, when we're trying to practice being healthier and have healthier relationships and set boundaries to take care of ourselves and to improve our relationships, and then people react. So it's just a normal phenomenon. I mean, normally if you're setting boundaries with people, especially if they're new boundaries and you're practicing something that you've never really practiced before, you're probably in relationships with people who don't have a healthy sense of boundaries and don't respect boundaries in the first place. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't need to work on setting them so hard, right? So I'm speaking very personally. I know this is my situation. I grew up in a family and in relationships where healthy boundaries weren't modeled for me. And so, once I started setting them, I was in relationships with a bunch of people who didn't understand boundaries. So they reacted really badly. And so it's hard. And so I'm just normalizing the fact that it's hard and it's okay. It's not meant to be easy, I guess. It's a new skill that we're learning how to do. And it takes work and it takes practice and it takes iteration, and we're going to get pushback and we just have to stick with it. I promise it ends up better in the long term after you've practiced it a lot for many years. Either the relationships that you're in will end, and the people who, people who are not willing to respect your boundaries will drop like flies. And then you'll create new relationships with people who are healthier and who are willing to respect your boundaries. Or the relationships that you have that want to keep you around, that love you, will start to slowly respect your boundaries over time if you stick to them. But you have to stick to them, be firm, hold your position, and they'll eventually get on board. They'll eventually get used to your new way of being and to relating to you in the way that, you find best for yourself, but it takes time and practice. So what to do? Number one, when people react to your boundaries, you need to reconnect to the higher purpose. So it can be really tempting to get caught up in that reaction in the short term, and forget the point of why you're setting boundaries, and forget that the short-term discomfort leads to a long-term achievement of the goal of setting the boundary and the consequence, the positive consequence of setting that boundary, which is to protect your energy, to improve your mental and emotional health, to live more according to your values, to have healthier relationships with other people. That is the higher purpose of your boundary. In the short term, it's gonna feel uncomfortable, and you just have to remember the higher purpose so that you can stick to it in the short term, right? So that you can endure that sort of discomfort of the other person's reaction in the short term. Number two, empathize without negotiating, right? So have compassion for the person's reaction without caving, and continue to hold firm in your position. So both things can coexist. We can understand that a person is upset about us setting that boundary. They may take it personally. They may, react and try to guilt trip you. They may try to explain you out of it, right? They may give you all these elaborate rationalizations for why you shouldn't be setting that boundary. They may try to negotiate with you. They may feel rejected. They may feel like you are telling them they're a bad person. They may call you a bad person. We can empathize and contextualize that person's reaction. Understand, right? Like for me, one of the people that I had to work on setting boundaries with in my life has a long history of trauma. They were abandoned as a child, and it's really hard for them to hear no from the people that they love because they think that it's another form of abandonment or rejection, and they take it personally. And I understand that. I learned to just empathize and have compassion for that And at the same time, that doesn't mean that I need to cave in, right? I can still hold the boundary. I can let that person know, hey, I understand that my position may be really hard for you to understand or accept, and that it may not feel good, but this is my position. I'm holding firm in it. And so we can empathize, have compassion. We don't need to be like these cold robots setting boundaries. We can understand, and we can feel for people, and we can continue on and stay firm in what it is that we want for ourselves. We can remain clear in the reasons why we are doing something and continue on anyway, and trust that there is some bigger, better, larger, long-term outcome for what we're doing. So empathize without negotiating. All right, number 3, try your best to resist reacting to their reaction. So especially when we're setting boundaries with someone that we care a lot about, it can make us feel upset to see them upset. We can take it personally that they're reacting to us, right? We can get defensive. We can try to explain ourselves. We can try to justify our position. They took it personally that we set a boundary with them, and now we're taking it personally that they took it personally. And that's not helpful for anyone, because then you end up in this like back and forth reactivity. So just take a deep breath, try your best not to react to their reaction. Again, work on empathizing and understanding that this may just be hard for them to receive right now in the moment. And that the best thing you can do is to just allow them to have whatever reaction they have. Try not to control their reaction. Don't feel the need to justify or defend yourself. Be clear. You're saying no. You don't owe them an explanation or a reason for why. You're simply saying no. They can have whatever reaction they want to have, right? Their reaction is in their control, not in my control, their control. So however you want to react, this is my position, and I'm going to hold firm in it. Okay, so number 4 connects to the first 3, and that is to learn to tolerate the emotional discomfort that comes with other people reacting to your boundaries. So when we are setting boundaries with people that we care about and they get upset, it normally upsets us. We feel upsetting those we care about. That's what it means to be human and a socially connected and a socially sensitive species, right? That's what it means to care about others. When they're upset, we're upset. So setting a boundary can feel upsetting. It can feel uncomfortable for everyone involved. And the reaction that people are having to us makes us feel really bad. That's just kind of one of the things that you have to contend with. You have to learn to regulate yourself through that and to tolerate the temporary emotional discomfort that it brings about. Know that it's temporary. Know that it's a trade-off, right? The short-term discomfort for the long-term well-being or the long-term improvement of your relationship with that person, or of your own sense of self, or your mental health, your emotional health. That's the purpose of the boundary. So you, again, reconnect to the higher purpose. That's why tolerating discomfort in the short term is related to reconnecting to your higher purpose. In order to be able to endure that discomfort of upsetting others in the short term, of the reaction of others in the short term, you have to know that there's something better waiting on the other side of that, right? In the long term. So again, regulate yourself. Tolerate the emotional discomfort necessary to do the hard thing in the short term that will lead to something better in the long term. Okay, so lastly, number 5, and I think the one that's been the hardest for me in my own life, is to just allow the relationship to change organically. When you start setting boundaries with people, the relationship dynamics are going to change. That is inherent to the process of setting boundaries. That is the purpose of setting boundaries, is to shift things that are currently in place so that you can have something better for yourself or for the relationship on the other side of that. And I think what has happened for me and for a lot of my clients that I notice is that we try to control that, right? If the other person, when you set a boundary with them, if they decide they want to drop out of the relationship altogether, or if they become a little bit distant, we may try to control that. We may try to change that, but you kind of just have to allow it to organically take its course and trust that, you know, the relationships that stick around and that adjust and adapt to your boundaries are the relationships worth having. The people who have been benefiting from your boundaries will drop like flies, or who have been in relationships with you only because they benefit from your lack of boundaries. Those people will drop like flies. And the ones that stick around, there may be some temporary discomfort or awkwardness as people learn to adjust to your new boundaries. But in the long term, it'll strengthen the relationship and the connection, because you're basically expressing more of what you need in the relationship. So allow the relationship to change organically, allow the cards to fall where they may, and just, you know, stay firm in your position and just trust the process, surrender to the process, stay calm, stay patient, and things will take the course that they should take, right? As long as you sort of focus on managing yourself, regulating yourself, and staying firm in your position. This is also why, by the way, which I'm going to do a whole other video on, sort of connecting to your higher purpose for your boundaries, you need to be very clear on why you're setting boundaries. You need to be very sure of what you want for yourself and what you don't want for yourself, because you're going to have to constantly come back to that as things get hard, as people react to you. And that higher purpose needs to be strong enough to help you endure all of the discomfort that comes with actually setting the boundaries with the people that you love. So the more you can be thoughtful and think through your values and your principles and the type of life that you want for yourself, the more clear you can be on the higher purpose of your boundaries, the easier the process is going to be of setting them and tolerating the short-term discomfort, or tolerating the loss of relationships or the changes in the relationships that come as a result of setting boundaries. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. As always, if you have questions, I do a monthly Q&A, a private Q&A for just my subscribers. And you can submit your questions. You can vote on questions that other readers and listeners have submitted. So be sure to subscribe so that you can join. I put the link in the description below, and that way we can stay more connected and we can learn more together in a more private space. So thank you all for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.